Hello everyone, it's Nick with the Whip Shop, and on today's video we're going to be making a bullwhip with a wooden handle that has two parts fit around a brass ferrule. I got this idea over a year ago after seeing a bullwhip made by Noah Allen. Noah did this really neat thing. He took a wooden handle, he turned it on a lathe, and he fitted a brass ferrule at the transition of the whip. I was really intrigued by this whip, and I wanted to kind of put my own little spin on this general idea, so I did that very thing. The idea is to have a wooden handle, and I'm going to cut out an area for the ferrule to be fit in place. Now the only way I'm going to be able to put the ferrule on there is if later on I cut the handle so that the two pieces will fit together. I'll have to fit the ferrule into place and then slide those two pieces together. These two pieces will be held in place with 1/4-inch steel rod as well as a 2-part 5-minute epoxy with a 3,300 pounds per square inch bond strength, which is probably much more than you need on a whip, but hey, I like to go overboard and be safe. You guys have been giving me a lot of helpful tips and ideas, things to do differently, different materials to use, different glues, and I've taken all of that to heart, and I appreciate all of the constructive help you guys have given me, and I've made those changes and I've been having great results in my products. Number one, the thing I'm doing differently now is I'm using this threaded 1/4-inch steel rod. It just makes sense to have threads. As far as the purchase goes on the wood, threads are going to hold better. I'm using this 2-part epoxy now. It sets in 5 minutes. The bond is unreal. You guys pointed me towards the direction of using epoxy. It's been working great. So when I assemble a whip and prepare it for a wooden handle, I am assembling the whip first. And I'm not really doing anything different as far as the core of the whip goes. 1/4-inch steel rod. This is stainless steel actually, but it is threaded. I'm just tying the first belly onto the steel threaded rod, the next belly, and then the final belly. And then I'm platting the overlay, and then I'm going back and marking where I want the transition to be. I'll bind it with some artificial sinew, perhaps some athletic tape, and then I'll cut a nice even cut 360 degrees around that part of the whip so that when I fit later on, when I fit that into the handle, it'll be a nice flush surface to surface contact. Now there are a lot of whip makers who will actually insert the steel rod into the handle first and then plat onto that once the handle's complete. That works great too, but I just don't like doing it because I don't feel like I can get that nice flush start onto the handle. So I'm doing it this way. Last but not least, I want to talk about this fantastic company called Bell Forest Products. I've been getting all of my wood for my wooden handle projects from this company. I just opened up this package of beautiful exotic woods. And these are very dense woods. When you turn them on the lathe, and once you take that thing off, you'll hold it in your hand and it'll feel almost like it's not wood. It's solid. This is some very, very good wood for handles. So Bell Forest Products, check them out. They have a lot of great stuff there. Guys, if you haven't already done so, please reach down and hit that subscribe button. It means a lot to me. And also, if you haven't already, please head over to patreon.com/NicksWhipShop. That's a place where you can give monthly to this channel, and it enables me to continue making videos just like this one. Let's jump into this interesting project that I'm not 100% sure I'll be able to pull off, but I hope I can. Guys, it's a really chilly day in the whip shop. We're going to try to get this project done anyway. So this is the wood blank that I've chosen for this project. It's called marble wood, and I think that those really cool contrasty lines will pair well with our red and our black combined with our brass ferrule. You'll notice I've picked up 3 extra long drill bits. The first one is 1/8 inch. Next we have 3 sixteenths, and finally we have a 1/4-inch, the longest one, which is our diameter of the threaded steel rod that our whip is built upon. Now the idea is to graduate these holes. I'm going to start off with the smallest one and work my way up to the 1/4-inch one. Now the way I'm going to drill this hole, it's pretty crazy and it's not the most ideal way. Right now I'm lacking some tools. I don't have a drill press, unfortunately, that's large enough to accommodate this long of a piece of wood, but a drill press is the ideal way to drill a hole through a handle. I'm going to be freehanding this, and you guys help me. I used to do it like this, drill in my strong hand, my dominant hand, and just drill in with this in a vise, and every time I'd get a wobble. It'd be offset every time. You guys told me, Nick, it's a much better method if you hold the handle in your right hand, your strong hand, and actually set this on the workbench, and then slowly feed the handle into the drill bit. You can get a much straighter hole. I started doing that. My results are much more consistent, and I found that I can drill much straighter holes. So thank you guys for that recommendation. The next step that we're going to take is we're going to mark the middles on our wood blank here. Now my lathe over there has one end that's kind of a plus pattern, and that's what's used to force the wood to turn. On the other end, we just have a pin, and that pin really will help us to see where we need to drill our hole after the handle has been shaped. All right, let's make a mess. What I'm doing right now is I've knocked off those edges, and it's now pretty much a perfectly round dowel rod. It's time to start shaping our handle as desired. So the first thing I'm going to do here is cut out my notch, and this is where the ferrule is going to be. Now it's come to my attention that I can't make this rebate or this indentation the exact length of the ferrule, otherwise I will lose about a blade width when I go to cut it. So I'm going to overshoot a little bit. Worst comes to worst, I can just sand down the ends and it'll be a perfect fit. We're looking for about 20 millimeters, 20.5 millimeters on this this indentation here, so it's going to take a little doing to get it down to that. .22. It's all about taking frequent measurements. We don't want to overshoot. .21, a little more. And it's important also to get it even. One side is 20.5 and the other side is about 21, so the left side we need to take down just a tiny bit. Perfect. Perfect. So here you can see we have our indentation, rebate, whatever you want to call it, for our ferrule right there. So what I want to do is now work on those flares on the left and the right side. So you can see this is a little longer than I anticipated. I decided kind of last second to go ahead and make this part a little shorter so I don't have to drill as long of a hole. So the next part is going to be to work on these flares here. I really want it to sweep down, and at the last second I want it to flare very sharply on the left and right side of the ferrule. After we work on that a little bit, we're going to go to the left side and work on our heel of our whip. pretty happy with the way that that looks. At this point, I'm going to go to the left side and start shaping out the heel. Now you can see how this part swells a little bit more than the heel itself, and I don't really like that very much. So I'm going to take this down to maybe 1/8 of an inch smaller of a diameter of the actual heel. There we go. I'm much happier with that flare, as you can see. Also right here we want about 20.5 millimeters, so we're going to need to take that down just a little bit as well. Do that right now. Excellent. Take our guide off. Looks good. I'm going to hit everything with a little bit of 120 grit sandpaper just to really knock off those little edges that we're getting there, little trenches, and that'll just smoothen things up quite a bit. Okay, move over to some 800 sandpaper. Next and last, we have a little bit of 1500 grain sandpaper. Feels like construction paper. Can't even feel the abrasion. Oh, that looks good. Pretty happy with it. I'm going to take this thing out, make sure everything is to my liking. I think it is. Alright. I'm going to take it out, and we're going to cut off the end where it's being held in our lathe. Feels good. I kid you not. This smells exactly like popcorn. Marble wood smells like popcorn. Imagine that. Okay, it's time to drill our hole in our handle. I can't stress enough, take your time. Do not rush this step. I'm going to take this thing in my right hand, this is my strong hand, and I'm just going to gently feed it in. I'm going to take a quick look here. I'm going to hold it against my chest here to stabilize it. Now I'm going to run it in, and then I'm going to let it spin in my hand. If there's any wobble whatsoever, I still have time to correct it because I'm only going in maybe 1/4 to 1/2 inch increments. I'm starting off with the 3/16 inch bit because this wood ended up being a little bit softer than I anticipated. So in a little bit, let it spin. No wobble, we're doing good. A little more. No wobble. And then I'm clearing my bit. See, that's only about 1/2 inch. Feels good. Almost. And that should do it. Now we can graduate to our 1/4 inch bit. See how I'm spinning it right now? It's not wobbling at all. It means we're nice and straight. And that's it. We're through. That's all we need, I believe. Let me double check that. Yeah, that's good. I'm looking for about 1 inch to 1.5 inches into our area beyond our ferrule. So I'm just going to go a little further. Gently, very gently. Alright, now it's time to go over to our saw and cut a perfect cut right here in the middle of our handle so that we can slip that ferrule in place. So we did pretty good. I did a project somewhat similar to this maybe a year ago, and I actually cut it first, and I was thinking I was going to drill my hole after that. Didn't work very well whatsoever. It's a little bit loose on us, it's okay. So as you can see, we have some room for error, so we're just going to sand down those ends and have it close nicely. We have about 1/4 inch of room that we need to eliminate. Slightest bit. We are so close. Cool. There it is. That's what it's going to look like. Is it to my expectations? Is it what I had in mind? Kind of, but not quite. See, I wanted those ends of the wood to flare up a little bit beyond the edge of the ferrule, but that's kind of the best I could do with 1 square inch stock. Not bad. We'll put it together and see how it looks. We can use the grain of the wood to help us line up exactly where it should be. I believe it's like that. There we go. Let's put it together. So here is our handle. As you can see, I have wrapped those indentations with a little bit of dacron just because it was a little bit of a sloppy fit. It's all about taking frequent measurements. We don't want to overshoot. And now, after wrapped, it's going to fit nice and snug. So I was debating on how I was going to do this. Was I going to glue all this in one shot? or am I going to do it in sections? And I've decided that I think the best way to do this is to take the top part of the handle, slather some epoxy on there, and slide this up. And just get that to set for about 10 minutes, and then we'll continue. So that's what I'm going to do. I've got my epoxy here. I've got plenty of paper towels on hand because this stuff is really messy. So I'm just going to squirt just a little bit on here. We don't need a lot. This is the 2-part epoxy. So as soon as we get it on the surface here, I'm going to stir it real good with the little stick that they gave us in the package. And we have approximately 5 minutes to work with this stuff before it sets. If you get this stuff on your clothes, you're kind of screwed. So don't wear anything nice. Here's our handle, and I'm going to take some of this and just start slathering it around those threads. Now you may notice that this is a loose fit. My idea behind that is if I have a very snug fit to where the threads are actually working, you can't get as much epoxy in there. So I figured if it's a loose fit like this, it'll allow for much more epoxy to build up and be a stronger fit. That's my thinking. I don't know if that's accurate or not, but don't forget to slather some on the whip itself there too. Remember, this is a connection here too. I want to get all those contact points. So, just like that. Trying to use it all up here. That looks good. Now when we push this, try to spin it like that. And you'll notice that there's a little bit of excess that'll leak out. We'll just wipe that off with our paper towel. Something I just thought of would be to, oh man, that's a perfect idea. It's the wrong size, of course. I need 1/4 inch. Instead of just sitting here and holding this, it's a much better idea to just use this nut as a holder, as a clamp, so we can allow it to dry and it'll be in place. See that? Yeah, we don't want that to spin while it's setting up. Nice and snug there. Oh, that's perfect. And a little more. I'm just going to wipe off that excess with my finger. Try not to get it on the wood, even though that part will be covered with a knot. I want to keep it as clean as I can. So I'm going to let this set for 20 minutes. It's 5-minute set time, but I want to be sure. Alright, so I've just mixed up a fresh batch of epoxy. I've taken off that nut, and I'm just trying to get this stuff spread evenly. Now I put on these gloves so I can just go ahead and touch the handle itself. And I'm not going to want to put on a heavy layer there, I don't think, otherwise it's just going to squirt out. So here goes the ferrule in place. That looks good. Coat also the inside of the ferrule. Looks good. Take that off. The hardest thing about this, I'd say, is probably just keeping epoxy off of your turned wood. Okay, there we go. See, that's the challenging part. We've got epoxy squirting out, contaminating our wood. I don't know what to do right now. I think I should just pull it out. Yeah, I'm just gonna have to pull it out. and then wipe off the excess. Even if you have just a little too much, it's just so easy to. And then I'm not even matching up my. It's really stressful. All right, I have to pay attention to my the wood, because remember I even mentioned that earlier. The grain will help me line up the handle. Okay. Oh, stressful. Okay. All right, we have to get this in a clamp. So I'm just gonna do this. I'm gonna have the whip itself in the vise, and then the wall with a towel is going to be my pressure. All right, so I've got a little bit of rubbing alcohol here, and this does really well in cutting the grease, and I can use it to wipe off some areas that are still wet of the epoxy, because I don't want that to solidify on there. Rubbing alcohol dries really fast, or it evaporates quickly, so it's a very ideal cleaning solution for this. Well, here is the whip so far. I took it out of the clamp. Everything feels nice and strong. We definitely had some sketchy moments getting this handle, the two pieces of this handle together, that's for sure. But everything turned out good. It's nice and strong. As you can see, I've masked off the thong of the whip, also the ferrule of the whip. And I'm going to hit this with some bullseye shellac. The stuff dries in minutes. It's a nice sealer finish that'll give it a nice glossy look to it. This particular wood, marble wood, has a grain that's not quite as fine as some of the other exotic woods, and as a result I wasn't able to get it quite as shiny as I wanted, so we're going to use a little bit of bullseye shellac to help it and encourage that nice gloss finish. Well, here is the finished product, guys. As you can see, I've tied a 2-pass 7x6 Turk's head knot. The first pass was in 550 parachute cord in black, and the second pass was in 95 parachute cord that has a smaller diameter. If you're interested in a video on that, please let me know in the comments section. Also, taking a look at our handle, that bullseye shellac really shined it up, gave it a glossy finish that I was going for. The whip is waxed and ready to go. This whip is going to Mr. Rogan in Los Angeles, California. Guys, thanks so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed this project. It was a challenging one. It's the first time I've ever done this, but I plan on doing it many more times again, and I hope I get better at it every time. Guys, let's test this whip out.